It's Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. I'm Brittany Noble, and here's what's coming up on The Breakdown. Haitian immigrants with temporary protected status can stay for now, but the Trump administration is asking the courts to block it. New concerns are raising questions about whether certain straightening products could be harming Black women's health. The director of programs at Weaving Voices will explain what her organization is doing to protect public health. In our For the Culture segment, meet the only Black lead producer on Broadway and find out how he is redefining the game. Plus, it's the 100th anniversary of Black History Month. Today on The Breakdown, we'll highlight a Black history fact throughout the show. The Breakdown starts right now. Well, the Republican National Committee appealed to the Supreme Court to end mail-in voting ahead of the midterm elections. The party filed the motion on Monday. The appeal was part of a case challenging Mississippi's election law, allowing mail-in ballots postmarked on Election Day to be counted for up to 5 days after the election. If approved, the move could prevent millions of people, including many military service members, from voting in the upcoming election. An Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department officer is now under internal review after a viral dash cam video appeared to show him threatening to kill a Black 17-year-old driver during a traffic stop. His mom, Amber Taylor, told the Indianapolis Star that it happened as her son was leaving an anti-ICE protest near Warren Central High School. We're going to show you the video. In it, you will see the teen place his phone on the dashboard as the officer approaches his car. In the middle of the video, the officer can be heard saying his car smelled of marijuana. And at one point, "I will effing kill you. Do you understand me?"
Yep. We're gonna get you out here. So when you get out, I'm gonna pull you out. I want to put your hands on top of the car. Okay?
How am I getting up with?
So, what are we doing? The car smells like weed. So that's it.
Put your hands up.
Don't fight.
We didn't do
Bro, what? I will fucking kill you. You understand me?
Oh, what the fuck? Yes, sir. Kill me if I. You fucking
reaching for a gun. That's why.
Do not move your hand. You understand? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bro, nobody was in the pain.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean if I reach, you gonna kill me?
Yes, sir.
Exactly what I'm talking about.
Stay calm. Everything will be fine. Yes, sir.
You understand what's going to go on, right?
Get out.
Get out with your hands on you, all right?
Here. Brother, Trey, chill. Trey, chill. All my life,
IMPD acknowledged the language used in the video does not reflect the standards or values of the police force. The Trump administration is appealing a court decision that allows Haitian immigrants with temporary protected status to remain in the U.S. government. Attorneys filed the notice of appeal to the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia February 5th. Federal Judge Anna Reyes ruled on February 2nd to keep the TPS designation for Haiti in place, which was set to expire on February 3rd. The notice of appeal requests Reyes pause her order, allowing TPS to remain in place. According to the Columbus Dispatch, an estimated 350,000 Haitian immigrants are believed to be in the United States, with 150,000 residing in Springfield, Ohio. Oklahoma tribal leaders accuse immigration and customs enforcement agents of racially profiling tribal citizens amid Operation Guardian Sweep on reservations. Leaders say they only learned of ICE operations on the reservations through social media reports by tribal citizens, rather than being informed by federal officials. ICE has been accused by tribal officials of stopping, questioning, and in some cases detaining Native people on their own land. Leaders are telling citizens to remain vigilant and to carry tribal identification along with any state or federally issued ID. In a news release, Governor John Raymond Johnson of the absentee Shawnee tribe warned tribal citizens to be prepared, saying in part, "It is unquestionably unconstitutional and illegal for any government officer to stop you, detain you, or question you without either a reasonable suspicion or probable cause that you have committed some kind of crime. It is especially unconstitutional for any officer or agent to do so solely based on your physical appearance." And a new report from the Government Accountability Office finds the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights failed to adequately enforce civil rights protections in schools while wasting millions of taxpayer dollars. According to the report, nearly half of the office's staff were laid off last year, and as a result, the agency dismissed nearly every discrimination complaint it received. The GAO says the Office for Civil Rights dismissed nearly 90% of complaints before any investigation. And between March 11th and September 23rd of 2025, the office received more than 9,000 discrimination complaints and dismissed more than 7,000 of them. The report also found that the office's layoff and restructuring plans cost taxpayers between $28.5 million and $38 million without improving efficiency. The Legal Defense Fund Senior Policy Counsel Hamida Labi issued the following statement in part, "This congressional watchdog report confirms what we already knew to be true. Over the past year, the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights has abandoned its duty to enforce our nation's civil rights laws and ensure Black students and other students of color have access to a high-quality public education free from discrimination. Plans to lay off half the agency have proven to be an expensive distraction, wasting tens of millions of taxpayer dollars while allowing thousands of students' discrimination complaints to go uninvestigated. The report reveals that nearly 90% of cases were dismissed before investigation, a rate that is unacceptable and denies students the justice that they deserve." Arkansas State University officials say they are investigating reports of hateful and deeply inappropriate behavior that happened recently on the campus in Jonesboro. One report alleges a resident assistant called a student a nigger. Another showed a picture of a student at a fraternity with a racial slur and a swastika written on their back. Students gathered for a protest on campus organized by the Young Democrat Student Organization.
People think this is just a trend, a news cycle. No, a girl was racially discriminated against behind her back. And we're out here because I don't want to be next. I don't want a high school student right now thinking about Arkansas State and not come here because this, in my opinion, is a good university with a good staff and good people. And we will not allow this to taint us.
In a statement, Chancellor Todd Shields said this type of behavior has no place at Arkansas State. It is not consistent with our institutional values and the standards we uphold as an academic community. Shields is urging anyone who has witnessed or experienced this kind of behavior to report it. Minnesota's K-12 schools is guaranteed $530 million in federal funding while allowing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility programs to continue. This comes after Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison settled a lawsuit with the Trump administration. The lawsuit was filed after a federal directive warned states that they could lose education funding unless they eliminated diversity-related initiatives in school. Minnesota is now one of 19 states that will receive federal funding, regardless of whether DEIA programs remain in place. It comes as the state has also challenged the Trump administration over increased immigration enforcement in Minnesota, including in and around public schools. Well, the FDA keeps missing deadlines to ban toxic chemicals from hair products. The director of programs from Weaving Voices will join us to talk about the dangers, who's being affected, and why it's time for real accountability. And on Broadway, there's only one Black lead producer, and he is changing the game from record-breaking hits to bringing August Wilson's, Joe Turner's Come and Gone to life. Brian Anthony Moreland explains what Black leadership looks like on the biggest stage. Please remember, for more news headlines and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day, visit the Black Star Network, your source for stories that matter to our community. We'll be right back. You're watching The Breakdown with Brittany Noble on the Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Well, the FDA misses another deadline to ban a dangerous cancer-causing chemical in hair products. And here's our conversation with Weaving Voices. Well, hair is more than just self-expression. It's a way of life. And with that in mind, there's recently been a call to action for companies to stop using dangerous chemicals or be more transparent about the ingredients that they use in hair products. Recently, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration missed its latest deadline to propose banning formaldehyde and certain formaldehyde-releasing chemicals in hair straightening products, often used by Black women. Here to talk about reducing toxic chemical exposures through hair products is Jayla Burton, Director of Programs at Weaving Voices. That's an organization that works to protect public health by targeting harmful chemicals in beauty cleaning and personal care products. Jayla, thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown.
Hi, Brittany. Thank you so much for having me and covering this really important issue.
Yes. Tell us how you got into this work.
Yeah, so I've been working in the environmental health industry. I want to say for the last 5 years. I initially got my background in public health, and I've been working at Weaving Voices for Health and Justice for, I want to say, the last year and a half, specifically calling attention to some of the issues in menstrual and intimate care products, safe cleaning products, and then conscious beauty, which is kind of where our work to call attention to formaldehyde and hair straightening products with the FDA lives.
Tell us about what you found with some of these products and the chemicals that are in them.
Yeah, so formaldehyde has been a chemical that we've been talking about, I want to say, for over a decade at this point. It's not really something that is new. We know that formaldehyde is a cancer-causing chemical. We also have had guidance and reports from other agencies, including the CDC, that has warned about increasing chances for infertility. We have a large evidence of science that links the exposure to formaldehyde with trouble breathing, skin irritation, and a plethora of other health issues as well. And so I want to say a lot of those adverse reports started coming to the surface in the early, I want to say about 2010 through 2015. And I know our organization has been doing the work to kind of raise awareness to this for, I guess, since that time. In that time, we've made a lot of progress, but we still unfortunately do not have a proposed ban. So that's kind of where this work began and what it looks like now.
And so the FDA recently missed the deadline.
Yes. So the FDA, I want to say in March of 2024, we were expecting for them to propose a ban on formaldehyde in hair straightening products. And that came as a result of, like I said, the years of advocacy from organizations and scientists. So in that announcement that they were going to take action, they set a self-imposed date. And that initially was, like I said, in March 2025. Since then, they have missed their deadline, I want to say several times, the most recent being in December of 2025. And so it's really interesting because I want to say at the end of last year, like December 2025, we did see that this issue was on the docket through the Office of Management and Budget. And typically what happens is if something is on the Office of Management and Budget document, that means that, okay, we're starting to move into the conversations of there is a proposed rule. However, how is it going to affect us economically or financially? So I think when we were transitioning from the Biden administration into our current administration, there were some signs that there had been some movement, but we have really received radio silence, and also just that agency has blown past a couple of its deadlines this past year as well.
Okay, so we understand that the FDA missed the deadline. I guess the scary part about this is that there are so many people who are still using these cancer-causing products to this day and really don't understand just how dangerous they are.
Yeah, and I would even go further into that to talk about the communities that are most impacted. I want to say a lot of it is our salon worker community who are constantly being exposed every day by the nature of their jobs. And a majority of these workers are also women of color who are experiencing exposure to this harsh chemical. In our advocacy, we've has a campaign actively going called Beautiful Hair Without the Scare, where we really would love for people to have the opportunity to express themselves in whatever way that aligns with what makes them beautiful, with not having to worry about what chemicals they're going to be exposed to and what health harms are going to come from those chemicals. In a lot of my conversations with salon workers that I've had, there's few of them that have expressed even some of the health issues that they've experienced and had to transition away from working in traditional salon settings and in more private settings and taking private clients. So that's really disheartening to hear, but I think it also encourages, us to do our work and keep calling for our regulatory action so that we don't have to be exposed to some of these things. So yeah, it's a really hard issue. I would say even beyond salon workers, customers, or folks that are sitting in the salon chair are also exposed to chemicals. That looks a little differently, the short-term exposure compared to the long-term exposure, but exposure is exposure. And at the end of the day, we don't want harm at all. I think that's the core of which we do our work.
Would you say there's a shared responsibility for us to better understand just how serious these chemicals can be?
I think there's a shared responsibility, and I also think that there are a lot of states that are doing this work as well, and kind of have moved beyond the FDA and what we've been asking, because there hasn't really been much action. So states like Washington, California, Maryland, they already have legislation in place that ban formaldehyde beyond just hair straightening products. This specific rule that we're waiting on from the FDA is only specific to hair straightening products. However, we're seeing other legislation that covers a whole breadth of products that fall underneath cosmetics or personal care. And so what we do have is states that have, you know, really set an example that it is possible, right? And it is possible to do without harming the beauty industry. But I think we just need to do a better job of getting that federal action, right? Because that's going to protect people outside of the states that already have some kind of guidance there.
I guess as of 2025, the global hair market is valued at about $90 to $114 billion. It's projected to exceed $216 billion by 2034. So if formaldehyde is banned, tell us what that could mean for the industry.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what's happening in the industry, because this has been an issue that we've been talking about for so many years, there have been companies that have been going towards the direction of formaldehyde free. I also think that some of the issues that raises, right, is like there are alternatives to formaldehyde. Also, just to talk a little bit about the science and how formaldehyde works, is mostly found in products, and sometimes it's on the label as methyl glyoxal, right? And so what happens is when you heat the product, that is when the really awful gas emits. And so there are companies that are, you know, choosing safer options. They are showing that it is possible. And I think that companies would be smart to kind of go ahead and take that social responsibility and corporate responsibility of moving forward and just phasing out the chemical, because I think what we can see in the pipeline when it comes to legislation and regulation is that that's kind of the direction that we're headed.
Jayla, what is it that you really want people to know?
Yeah, I want to just mention how, you know, as a Black woman myself, and how important my hair means to me, and just knowing that beauty standards don't also shape aesthetic, they shape exposure. I think that is the harsh reality of the work that I do. I have no longer been able to just, you know, be a consumer that doesn't know about some of these issues, right? And so it has made me a lot more conscious. And I think that's important. And I don't want to fearmonger, because ultimately, the individuals shouldn't have to take the responsibility. Our system should hold the container for us to, you know, be able to make whatever decisions that we want to in the safest way possible.
Well, Jayla, we appreciate the work that you're doing. Thanks for bringing this information to us here on The Breakdown. Jayla Burton, the Director of Programs at Weaving Voices.
Thank you for having me.
Well, coming up, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland calls out President Donald Trump for his wild rant on a reporter who questioned him over a racist video that he posted. And also, have you come across a news story that deserves our attention? We want to hear from you. Please use our QR code to submit your questions, and we will investigate. We'll be right back. You're watching The Breakdown.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
What's happening? This is your man, Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching the Black Star Network.
Well, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, President Donald Trump gets triggered by a reporter after she questions him over a racist video of the Obamas that he posted to his Truth Social account. Roland talks about Trump's wild rant.
Oh, the twice impeached, criminally convicted con man in chief Donald Trump. Boy, he lost it when a reporter attempted to compare his excuse that a staffer posted the racist video image depicting President Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, as apes. And the reporter said that, well, wait a minute, you kept saying President Joe Biden was unaware of actions he took in his name, but what about you? Roll it.
You frequently criticize Joe Biden for not knowing what is going on in his name. This racist video that was posted on your social media.
A hell of a lot better than you do. You don't know what's going on. I know what's going on. No, Joe Biden didn't have a clue, but we know everything. And when you look at what's happening with our economy, and think of it, we're way years ahead of schedule. We have thousands and thousands of businesses being built right now. So Joe Biden had no clue. If Joe Biden were elected or if Kamala were elected, we wouldn't have a country right now.
You won the election because of minority voters. Does this post maybe hurt Republicans with, black voters after the...
I think, look, we did criminal justice reform. I did the historically black colleges and universities. I got them funded. Nobody has been, and that's why I got the highest vote with male black voters that they've seen in many, many decades. I've done great with the black voters. They've been great to me. I've been great to them. Black voters have been great to me. I've been great to them. And I am, by the way, the least racist president you've had in a long time, as far as I'm concerned. We have I've had a great relation. Think of what I've done. Criminal justice reform. Nobody else could do it. Obama couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Clinton couldn't do it. They actually went the other way. They went into a very bad thing for African American people, black people. They did very bad things. I did very good things. But criminal justice reform, and then I funded the universities, which nobody else was willing to do. They were going every year. They'd come back to Washington and they'd be begging for money, begging. I got to be friendly with some of the heads of the schools, and they would come back and they would literally tell me they're forcing us to beg. I'm the one that got them long-term financing and more than they were looking for. So there's nobody that's done more. And I think maybe more than anything else was criminal justice reform. They've been trying to get it for years, and I'm the one that got it done. So nobody can tell me about that. That somebody posts a staffer, post, and I knew it was all about. If you take a look at that and see the whole thing, it was a small section at the very end, but that was about fraudulent elections, which we have a lot of them. We're going to get it stopped. And I liked the beginning. I saw it and just passed it on. And I guess probably nobody reviewed the end of it because what I saw at the beginning was really, really strong. It was about fraudulent elections. And anytime I see that stuff and when it's credible, you put it up. But somebody slipped and missed a very small part. Now, by the way, again, and take off on, I guess, I didn't do it, by the way. This was done by somebody else. This was a retruth. That was not done by us. But that was a very strong truth. It was a very strong statement made about the fraudulent elections in a certain part of our country, which are really bad.
Y'all, his ass just straight ass lying. I mean, just lie, 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 lie. It's all a lie. First of all, let me remind y'all, okay, criminal justice reform, Democrats control the House. It was Hakeem Jeffries that pushed that through the House, and then when it went to the Senate, you had Democrats Dick Durbin, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, who said, oh, this bill is too weak. You even had Republican Chuck Grassley, head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, saying, bill got to get improved. That's how it got passed. What Donald Trump just said about HBCUs, flat out lie. Oh, I got long-term financing. No, he did not. Y'all, he didn't even know what the hell that bill was about. That bill was led by Congresswoman Alma Adams of North Carolina. Yep. She was the co-chair of the Congressional HBCU Caucus. Go to my iPad. Okay? This is what Trump is lying. What he's talking about is the Future Act. Okay? The Future Act first came under George W. Bush. It was renewed under Obama. Then it expired. So when he keeps talking about he got them long-term financing, no, that bill was about $250 million. $85 million of that went to HBCUs. That's it. That ain't long-term financing, y'all. He's just lying. He's lying. He didn't know jack about this bill. It was Congresswoman Alma Adams who drove the bill through. Those just facts. So I'm like, bro, you can keep sitting here lying. Oh, by the way, $17 billion went to HBCUs under Biden-Harris. Trump can't even get close to that number. The fact of the matter is, he knew about the damn video. He knew about it, Jolanda. He's lying. And we all know what's going on here. Okay? He doesn't accept responsibility. He refused to apologize. Yes, he is a racist. That's what he is. And so, please, I mean, I'm trying to handle this crap. Again, and these right-wingers just love to kiss his ass, and including some of these silly Negroes who stand back as well.
And so, first of all, what does bad elections have to do with what is it? It was based on, what's that movie with Mufasa? The Lion King, where he had himself be a king with very bad graphics, I might add. What does that have to do with, like, not truthful elections? So even his lie didn't make sense. He was wrong on the details of his lie. And who wants to take a president seriously who comes out on his social media things about the Lion King with people's faces superimposed on bodies. So nothing about it was serious, except for he was seriously racist and evil to Black people. And I don't know when we're going to accept, I guess, people generally, that he's racist. He just is. I think most of Black people understand that he's racist, but white folks continue to excuse his behavior and try to explain it away with jokes. And these jokes are not funny, even when they're doing that. So he's racist. I agree with you, Roland.
Congo.
You know, every week he gives people more fodder that we should be using to bring to these corporations, to bring to these organizations, all these places that have caved to this guy. Like, this is the guy you wanted to cancel your DEI program for, the guy who's putting out images of the Obamas as apes. Y'all are cool with that? You must be cool with it because you haven't made a statement about it. So we know we need to keep that pressure on because a racist is going to racist. And what we're doing in this country, unfortunately, is we treat Trump's actions like school shootings. Everybody gets uproar for, for a couple of days, thoughts and prayers and so on, and then people move on to the next story. So unlike, what we do here where we call it out regularly, folks across the country, oh my gosh, this was sad, this is messed up, Tim Scott, most racist thing I've ever seen. But then they make no demands and they go right back to business as usual. And that becomes part of the problem. The fact of the matter is that there's only like 3 people who have access to Trump's account, like him, Scavino, and Harp or something like that. This went out at like 11:45 p.m., similar to our last story. If this was a random person who put it out, who is it? Did they get fired? Was there anything? This is Trump. This is Trump who did it. They took it down like 12 hours later. And then you got people in the White House said, he's not racist. Didn't you see him standing side by side with Nicki Minaj and holding hands? Like this is what they're literally saying. And then they'll make up stories about how he does everything for Black people. And too many folks in these press outlets who are in front of him don't have enough knowledge to be able to say, well, Biden actually gave $17 billion. So I'm concerned that people are not going to be talking about this a week later, even by the end of this week or even midweek. But this is fodder that we can use to pressure more of the organizations and corporations and schools and people that support him to force them to call him out, or they suffer more consequences from us, similar to what's happened with Target.
Velma, here's what I thought was utterly hilarious on Friday. Now, the video was posted in the early hours on Friday. A lot of pressure. Probably was shortly after noon the video got taken down. But it was amazing to me how these scared Negroes waited late. So, for instance, this Trump Black preacher, Kelvin Kobaris, he is the pastor of New Life Christian International Church in Plant City, Florida. This is who he is. Now, I said it was taken down shortly after noon. This fool drops this statement at 10 p.m. The post depicting former President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as apes on Truth Social was despicable and disgusting. While a White House staffer was responsible for posting it, those of us in leadership understand we are ultimately accountable for the actions of our subordinates. Rather than joining the rage on social media, I addressed my concerns directly with the White House and encouraged the president to publicly denounce the post and work to heal and unite our community. #BridgeBuilder. Negro, you weighed in 10 hours later. And you likely ran your statement by the White House before releasing it. How you gonna call yourself a bridge builder? And then it's like, oh, I encourage the president to publicly denounce the post. First of all, that video of Trump talking, hell, that was taken before his statement even went out. So, and Trump did not denounce the post, and he damn sure ain't working to heal and unite. But see, this is what happens again when you got these folk we can call the help. Then you also have that little MAGA Negro out of Detroit, Lorenzo Sewell. Everyone makes posts they regret. A little folly casts out much wisdom. But please don't think Black Americans who live in majority Black cities even know what Truth Social is. It is extremely disingenuous to suggest Americans care about Black people. Huh? Black Americans don't need anyone to care for us. We just need to learn how to care for ourselves. Lorenzo, Black people have already figured out how to care for ourselves. We're the second largest investors in our country, and we need a return on that investment. Really? Ask Ramon Action Jackson, my political minister. I don't even know what the hell that statement is. Tell me, go ahead.
Jackson.
Well, tonight on Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network Marketplace will feature a Texas Black-owned confectionery business that's sure to cure your sweet cravings. And also coming up on The Breakdown, she's faced foster care, chronic illness, systemic barriers, and now a California attorney is using her experience to fight for justice, mental health, and change. We hope that you'll stay with us here on The Breakdown, and your support is critical to what we do here on the Black Star Network. You can support us via Cash App using the Stripe code in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen right now. You can also help us with credit cards. Use the same thing. PayPal's are Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle at RolandSMartin.com. Rolling at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. If you're old school, cool. You can send your checks and money orders payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Our goal is to raise $1 million by December 31st, and we really appreciate your support. Stay with us.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
People never have to navigate. From incarceration to foster care, from chronic illness to the halls of power, her journey is rooted in survival, resilience, and a commitment to breaking cycles that have impacted generations. So, Leah, I want to thank you for joining us here on The Breakdown.
Thank you, Brittany, so much for having me.
Absolutely. Please tell us a little bit about your story. So you were born in prison?
Yes, I was. My mother, she was inflicted with mental illness. She suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, and she self-medicated and got involved with a lot of dangerous street drugs and found out she was pregnant with me. I most likely was conceived during probably a drug binge. And during that time, probably like 3 months into her pregnancy, she got into trouble. She was having a mental episode and she was incarcerated. They didn't hospitalize her. Don't understand why, but the system was different back then. But they incarcerated her at Sybil Brand Institute. That's a women's prison in Los Angeles. And the movie Sybil Brand that many of us have seen is actually based on that. It's shut down today, but I was born there. She gave birth to me there. And when I look at my birth certificate today, the address of that prison is actually on there. So yeah, that was my beginnings. That's where I started at.
And I know your grandparents certainly tried to help you out. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so after I was born, I was placed into the foster care system under their care. At the time, it was a bit interesting. My grandparents were already older. My grandmother was bedridden. She was legally blind. She suffered from diabetes. She was immobile. She couldn't really walk. So by the time I was a toddler at the age of 4, I was doing a lot of the caretaking. I was a 4-year-old. I didn't go to preschool. I was administering her insulin. I was giving her food. I was changing her bedpan. I was bathing her. I was making sure she was okay in between my Sesame Street and Barney. So that was a lot of the upbringing. Grandfather was there. He's also an Army veteran. So he was pretty much suffering from shell shock, PTSD, and alcoholism. He wasn't as present as my grandmother. They're both around, but I was a little toddler around the house, making sure that they were okay and taking care of them.
Tell us a little bit more about your childhood as you got a little bit older.
Yeah, so grandparents, by the time I was 12 years old, both grandparents had ultimately passed away. And I have 2 sisters. I'm a middle child. I have an older sister and a younger sister. The younger sister I looked after. She was born when I was around 6 years old. So I was there taking care of her, making her formula, changing her diapers, really looking out for her, feeding her. I was a child really raising a baby, an infant myself. So by the time they passed away, we stayed at their house for over a year by ourselves. I was getting myself up to take myself to school. I was waking up and getting my little sister dressed for preschool. We had no parental guidance and supervision there. It was people kind of in and out of my grandparents' house. And I still had the willpower, the morale compass to do the right thing, to go to school. And ultimately, there was a whistleblower. So someone made note to CPS and the police officer that some minors were staying there alone. And I remember coming home from play rehearsal from church on a Saturday afternoon, and a police officer knocked on the door asking where our parents were. And I couldn't tell them that there were any there. And so, I panicked and freaked out, and they opened up a whole investigation for child neglect. And from that point on, they removed us from the house. They said we can no longer stay there by ourselves, which we shouldn't have been doing from the beginning. And we were placed with a legal guardian, and I moved around with other family members and so forth. But it was a uphill battle. It wasn't always supportive. Even though it was with family, it wasn't always welcoming and inviting. There was a lot of resentment there and rejection. And so I had to deal with that. And so from an early age, I was pretty much anchored in my faith. And I told myself, you know what, I could rise above my circumstances. I don't have to, succumb to where I come from. It was a lot of violence, gangs, drug abuse and stuff, even within my family. And I just always felt a higher calling to do something about it and to go further than what my circumstances led me to. So I stayed focused and I stayed anchored in school, and I worked really, really hard. I just knew I didn't want to be like the environment that was around me. So I was really, really dedicated to my studies. So I worked hard to get into college, and that was one of the first steps that I knew my journey and me doing this hard work would ultimately pay off. So, yeah.
The calling on your life is so great.
Thank you.
I understand that you graduated from Loyola Marymount University.
Yeah.
And unexpectedly, you were diagnosed with lupus.
I was. So I just finished undergrad. I was so happy, excited. I knew I wanted to go to law school. I'd already taken the LSAT. I already put in applications and applied and got in. And I want to say the summer before it was time to make a decision to commit to a school, I started not feeling my best. And I really had to advocate for my health. I had a white primary care physician. And I was telling her, hey, something's wrong. And she kept kind of like minimizing the symptoms I felt. And she was just kept saying, well, you don't have this butterfly rash on your face, so you do not have lupus. I said, something's wrong. Like, we have to do a workup. So I really had to advocate for myself. And so they did like a bunch of tests, a kidney biopsy, to try to figure out what was going on with me. And so I was swelling all over my body, and they knew something was kind of going back to the kidneys. And so just that advocacy I had to do for myself, they ultimately figured out that I had an underlying illness of lupus nephritis, which attacks the kidneys. And they started me on medications, and it was tough. It took me about 2.5 years to get into remission, but I stayed anchored. I remember it just being a transition to feeling like, oh my gosh, I finished, I conquered undergrad, I graduated, the world is my oyster, to feeling a bit discouraged now, having to deal with and live with a chronic illness. And so I am a visionary, and I believe it is so powerful and critical to surround yourself with other visionaries and just the vision. And so I made it a point to continue working at law firms all through and out, and just reaching out to other attorneys who already were there where I was aspiring to be. And so I just stayed focused. And during that time of me having to take a break off, I was able to work for our former VP Kamala Harris during her Senate race. I was a policy intern. So I saw that as just a blessing in disguise, being able to get that experience and just staying around the environment and staying around go-getters and that ambition. And so after that, I was able to apply for law school and finally start my journey.
And so you went to law school, and then you ended up interning with Vice President Kamala Harris, worked on policy issues too?
Yeah, for foster youth during that time. I did it before I started law school. And I just kind of was advocating and doing a lot of research on just the system and the shortcomings I felt I was impacted by. When I was in undergrad, there were moments where I was homeless, and I needed help and resources and support. And when you're in foster care, when you turn 18, you're emancipating from the system. After that, no one is responsible for you legally. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes that's a bit difficult, because I can't find one adult that is just ready to go off and conquer the world by themselves at 18. You still need that support. And so during that time, I think I had resources that lasted up until I turned 21. And after your 21st birthday, everything is cut off. And so I still was in college. I still needed resources. I still needed help with food, housing, and tuition, and just everything else. And I didn't have that. So my goal was to do some research and kind of see where those cracks are, and what we really need. I had lived experience in the foster care system, and I saw it even going to college and having the opportunity to be in that space. There were still things I need, and I always felt alienated and ousted and stuff. And I was grateful. By the time I was about to graduate, probably my senior year, they had just started a program called Guardian Scholars that was targeted and focused on former foster youth. And again, this was not something I was talking about publicly, because I'm pretty much, an outlier in that space. All of my other colleagues, they come from traditional backgrounds, and they have that family support. And that was something I didn't have. And I was a bit embarrassed to discuss it publicly. But later on in life now, I do see it as something that's empowering. I want to share my story and continue to let those who are in similar situations know that it's okay, and, you could go beyond your circumstances.
And tell us what your hope is for the future.
My hope is to absolutely be able to reach back and touch those who are still in the foster care system, and let them know that they can give themselves permission to become anything that they dream of. I know it's so difficult to be in that space, not having people that support you, not being connected and around biological family, or not having a mom and dad. My goal is to go back and pour into them and provide them with realistic resources. Like, I knew what those things looked like and what I needed. And I want to use everything that I have, all of my resources and just my strength and my testimonial resilience, to help uplift and empower and inspire them to keep going and to definitely go beyond their circumstances and not feel that they have to succumb to their environment, or just because they were born in the system, or possibly born incarcerated, or have mothers and fathers who may have been drug addicts, that they have to succumb to all of that. I want them to know that they can reach beyond that and keep going. And there's nothing that could stop them. There's nothing that'll be in their way. So, yeah.
Well, Celia Wilkins, we thank you for sharing your testimony with us. We are so proud of you becoming an employment attorney, and we hope that you'll join us again on The Breakdown very soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. We'll be right back. Stay with us. You're watching The Breakdown.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Well, if you want to represent the Black Star Network beyond the screen, there is an easy way to do that. Please head to shopblackstarnetwork.com, where you'll find official Black Star Network swag, from hoodies and t-shirts to crew necks and other everyday essentials. It's a way to support the network and show pride in Black-owned media wherever you go. But it doesn't stop there. When you shop at shopblackstarnetwork.com, you're also supporting a growing collection of Black-owned businesses featured on the site. From apparel and accessories to unique gift items, you can discover brands doing incredible work and keep your dollars circulating in our community. Whether you're shopping for yourself, looking for meaningful gifts, or planning ahead for Valentine's Day, it's all in one place. Media support and community investment combined. That's shopblackstarnetwork.com. Support the network, support Black-owned business, and support the culture. That's going to do it for us today on The Breakdown. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. Be sure to join the conversation online. We also want to hear from you. Send us your questions, your story ideas, and all that's happening in your community. And don't forget, we'll be right back here tomorrow with more news, more context, more voices that matter. For more news, special coverage, and on-demand content, you can visit blackstarnetwork.com and check out everything happening across the Black Star Network. I'm Brittany Noble. This is The Breakdown. You can follow me online at The Noble Journalist. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.